Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some simple spiritual practices that you can start to implement into your daily life to combat feelings of sadness, disconnection and feeling lost. Before I get into the video, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button because it will help me to grow the channel and reach more people that need to hear my messages. Without further ado, we'll get into the video. As I'm sure you can probably all relate, when we have been conditioned by society, by our parents, by teachers, by friends, by our environment, our whole life, we can get to a point where we feel pretty lost and we don't really know who we are as a person. We might be in a job that's not in alignment, we might have lots of relationships and friendships that aren't necessarily very good for us. But we've ended up in this situation because of the conditioning that has been placed on us since childhood and throughout our adult life until the point that we get to. For me, it was about the age of 30, I'm 38 now, that I started to recognise that I was very lost and I didn't know who I was, I didn't know what I liked, I had no confidence, I had no self-worth to be able to just speak up for myself really and feel confident in my own skin, because I wasn't able to feel that because I didn't know who I was as a person. And all of that came down to the conditioning that had been placed on me from childhood. And it led to me feeling very, very sad. It led to me feeling very disconnected. It led to me just feeling lost. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you will see that I spent a big chunk of my life, about a decade of my life, abusing drugs and alcohol because it was my only way of escaping the reality that I was in, and I wasn't understanding myself. I was feeling lost, I was just existing. I had debilitating social anxiety because I was trying to mask who I was as a person. I was just putting this mask on every day, going to a job that wasn't in alignment, in a narcissistic abusive relationship, because I didn't know who I was because of all this conditioning. So I was attracting all of the wrong things because I was portraying myself as somebody that I actually wasn't. So it was up until the point that I started working with a coach, and that was about 7 years ago now, the first coach that I worked with. And she's the one that introduced me to these basic things that I'm going to share with you today that really, really changed my life and empowered me and gave me that kind of that push and that confidence to move forward with wanting to unravel all these things that no longer served me anymore, and getting me to a point where I could just undo all of this conditioning. I could combat the anxiety for the rest of my life so I didn't have to deal with that anymore, and get to a point where I could start to get to know the real Gretel. And they were really, really good things that I implemented into my daily life. I don't do them so much now. I do go back to them when I feel I need to, but at this particular time I was pretty much doing these things every single day. So the first one, and this is so important, especially when you're in the midst of feeling sad, feeling disconnected, feeling anxious, not understanding yourself, sit down with yourself and meditate. So number one is meditation. Sit down, even if you can only find 5 minutes. I recommend the morning. You can meditate before bed if you feel like that's going to help you to sleep and it's going to help you to kind of wind down and things like that. But more meditation in the morning is the best thing, because you can kind of, if you can get straight out of bed, go somewhere where you're not going to be disturbed, sit down, and even if you can only manage 5 minutes, 5 minutes is better than nothing. And what I want you to start practicing is some breath work, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. You can always start off by doing 3 to 6 really deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And even if you only manage that with a little bit of music, with music or without, it doesn't matter, that will help you to start, rather than getting up and being straight in your head and thinking about what you've got to do and anxious about what's to come, or procrastinating or catastrophizing or thinking about what happened yesterday or what you said, or before you get into that state, it helps you to connect back into your body and actually have those couple of minutes or 5 minutes to connect in and see how your body is truly feeling. Is your body trying to tell you something? Because I know for me, my body was screaming at me for such a long time that things weren't right, but I just wasn't listening because I was too focused on what my mind was telling me, which is obviously our ego and our subconscious mind and all the trauma, because what our subconscious mind does is it plays out all of these things that have happened, all of the trauma that we've been through, all of the conditioning that's been embedded and ingrained into us. That is working overtime, because what we are actually made for is survival. That is our our main objective is to survive as a human being. And so what our mind does is it focuses on all of those things to try and keep us safe, and that isn't necessarily good for us. A lot of the time that is what creates a lot of the suffering. So meditation, make time to meditate, build up the time, go on YouTube. There is some amazing meditations on there. I'm actually going to drop my favourite one in the comments for you to click on if you want to go to it. It is literally my go-to, and it is an empath meditation for cleansing your energy and protecting your energy. And when I'm feeling out of sorts with my energy bodies and all of that, and I feel like I've taken on a lot of other people's energy unconsciously, and I feel all out of balance, I will go to that. And when I do that meditation, I feel so light and I feel like I've rebalanced everything and connected back into myself. So that will be a really, really good one for you guys. So I'll pop that in the comments. Another thing is that really did help me, and this is difficult when you've got a lot of unhealed trauma or conditioning that you haven't particularly dealt with. It is difficult to try and get your mind to think in a more positive way. But the second thing that I'm going to say is affirmations. Affirmations are really, really good to help us, rather than spiraling as soon as we wake up into this negative mindset of I'm not worthy, I'm not confident, I don't know who I am, I'm not clever, I'm anxious, I'm not like everybody else. All of these negative things that we tell ourselves when we don't understand who we are and we've lost connection with our true selves. That is a constant thing, and that constant cycle, that rumination in the head, is what creates the anxiety and what creates the suffering. So one of the things that you can do is you can sit down and write down 3 to 5 things that you like about yourself, that you are good at, and you can start saying those things to yourself first thing in the morning when you wake up. You can wake up and say those things, or you can get straight out of bed, go into a different room, sit down, do your meditation, say your affirmations, and literally, guys, this can take 5 minutes. 5 minutes out of your day to make you start feeling that little bit better about yourself, that little bit more confident, that little bit more connected, and that little closer to understanding yourself a little bit more and connecting into your soul, connecting into your intuition. Number 3 is something that I really, really loved. It's not something that is in my life at the moment, purely because I do a lot of jiu-jitsu with me and my partner owning our own jiu-jitsu academy. But I used to do hot yoga, so number 3 is yoga. I used to do yoga 3-4 times a week, and at that particular point in my life, when I was at the stage you guys are at, and I was really suffering in my head, and I was working through doing the inner work and all of this. Well, to be honest with you, the yoga is what I actually started doing before I started working with a coach. And it really, really helped me in that particular moment for that hour to bring myself back into my body a little bit more and get some breath into me, get that prana flowing through me and release some of that stagnant energy, those emotions that were trapped in there, to release some of that to make me feel, again, more connected, less busy in the mind. And to be honest, yoga is amazing. So if you've never done yoga, I would highly recommend going to try it, even if you only do one a week or you do a practice at home. It is amazing. It's really, really good for all of the things that I've just talked about. So that is another recommendation. And number 4 is breath work. As I've just mentioned with the meditation, breath work is incredible. Now, we can all breathe because we have to breathe to stay alive, but we unconsciously, our brain unconsciously tells our body to breathe without us having to do anything. So a lot of the time we can be in situations or at work or talking to someone and not actually breathing or holding onto our stomach really tightly because we're feeling anxious. And I used to do this so much, and I'd be like, I'm not even breathing here. It'd just be like this, my body just went into this kind of like tightness, and it like locked up as if I was just trying to protect myself from a threat or something like that. And so I was making the anxiety that I was feeling worse because I wasn't breathing. So what I want you to start doing from now is noticing how you're breathing when you're in certain situations, when you're feeling a certain way, which is another reason why when you sit down to meditate, it is really important to focus on your breath, because you can actually tell. When I first started doing breath work, I really struggled with it because my breathing was so shallow all the time. So you have to kind of practice filling your lungs up. And again, go onto YouTube and find the different methods. There's like Wim Hof, there's all sorts of different methods and different practices for breath work that you can do. But I challenge you to start feeling into that. And some of these things will trigger you when you start to bring awareness to them. And you'll be like, oh my God, yeah, I'm not breathing properly. And then you'll try and breathe properly. And it becomes a bit of a cycle where, you know, it does trigger you a little bit because you're bringing that to your awareness where you're actually holding on and you're doing that because you're feeling anxious or you're feeling a certain way. So if you can get your breath work under control at home and you can implement some practices, you can then start to implement those practices when you're out in the world, when you're at work, or you might be in a challenging situation or a situation where you feel a bit anxious. You can then take a breath, take a moment and say, hang on a minute, I'm going to help my body to feel more relaxed, and I'm going to help myself to get out of my head and drop more into my body by breathing. So it is really, really powerful tool that you can implement. Number 5 is journaling. Journaling is amazing for emptying your head, especially at the stage you guys are at now. You will have a lot of stuff whirring around your head about there's lots and lots of phases and lots of things that you will not be understanding about yourself throughout your life because you've been conditioned, because you're suffering with anxiety but you don't know why. You know, there possibly could be some undiagnosed mental health problem, like with me, ADHD. It didn't get diagnosed until last year when I was 37, sorry. That played a massive part into a lot of the reasons I was the way that I was, but I didn't know. And so you're going to have such a busy mind because all your mind is going to be telling you is all the negative things, all the conditioning, and all of the things that you are programmed up until this point to understand, all the things that you've been taught about yourself. That's what's going to be playing constantly all the time. Now, that's not going to be necessarily right or true, but that's what's causing you the suffering, and that's what's causing you to feel disconnected and sad and empty and lost. So the best thing that you can do is write it down, because there's something about when you write something down on paper that is different to when you're thinking about it in your head. And what happens is you do a brain dump, and then once you've dumped it on paper, it's out of there and on paper, so you don't really think of it. You're going to, with certain conditioning and things like that that are deeply embedded, they are going to come back up, but it helps you in that moment with the thoughts that are coming up. When you go into a spiral of thinking about those thoughts, there's a difference between thoughts. You're always going to have thoughts popping in and out of your head. But when you start thinking about those thoughts, that's when the suffering starts to kick in. So when you have thoughts, if you can get those down on paper and go, well, really, I mean, is that true? Is that thought true? Or is that just my mind telling me that? Or is that somebody else's belief there that I've taken on? Is that something that my mom believes, for example, and that I'm just thinking about this? It's causing me suffering. It's causing me anxiety. But do I really believe that? And so it helps you to break it down. And it helps you to see it in a different light. So I really recommend that you take time each day to empty your head. Maybe it is before you go to bed. And also what you'll probably find as well is when you start writing, you kind of like channeling loads of things and loads of stuff's coming through. And that's when you can kind of get intuitive messages as well about these things that you're thinking about, and you know, all sorts of things can come through, all sorts of amazing things can happen. And when I'm journaling, I tend to start getting really, really fast because there's that much stuff that's coming out and I'm like, oh my God. And then you'll just get to the point where you're like, okay, that's everything for tonight. But it is a really powerful tool to help you, again, to get out of your head. And number 6, the last one, is ask the universe for help. So when we're conditioned, when we're blinkered, when we're living in the 3D world, we don't know that there is anything more than that. We think that this reality, these physical things that we can touch, you know, the things that we think, the things that are here and now, the program, we think that that is all there is. And that can feel really, really isolating, and it can feel, like I said, you can feel really sad and really lost and really disconnected from yourself because you just think this is it, there's nothing else. Now, when we're born, have you ever noticed when children, you know, you hear stories of them and they say, oh, I was speaking to so-and-so, and they're like, well, who's so-and-so? And they're like, oh, it's my friend, you know, my friend over there. And it's just this imaginary friend, or, you know, they have certain dreams, or they're very open. Children are like open portals because when they're born, they don't have any of that conditioning placed on them. They only have 2 fears, the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. That is it. So any other fears that we actually get throughout our lifetime is because they have been put onto us through conditioning. So when we get to a certain point and we're feeling the way that we are and we grow up, we get completely disconnected from the source, from the universe, from our soul, because we are a soul having a human experience, not the other way around. And when we become disconnected from that, that is when the suffering happens. That is when we're just existing, we're not happy, we're not fulfilled, we don't have clarity, we don't feel inner peace. The universe is always there. Now, this is completely up to you what you believe in. And before I started working with my first coach, I had no knowledge of this. You know, I think deep down we have that, but we forget because of all the conditioning and everything else. But when I started to implement all of the practices that I've just said into my life, and I started connecting to something bigger than me, which I just like to call the universe, or I call spirit, or I call on my angels, then I wasn't feeling so alone, because it felt natural. It felt like there was always somebody else there to help me and to guide me. And when I started to do that, things started to happen, doors started to open, experiences started to come into my life for me to grow, for me to learn, for me to become better. And what you find is more of a flow, more synchronicity when you are connected in with your body and in with your soul, and less in your head about what your mind is telling you. And when you do that and you're asking the universe specifically for help and for guidance, that's when they're able to help you. Whatever you want to call that, whatever that means to you, you might be religious, it might be God, it might just be the universe, it might be spirit, it might be your angels, it might be your higher team. Whatever it is to you, whatever resonates with you, that's absolutely fine. I just like to call it the universe, because I know within the universe, we're all part of the universe, and the universe is there the universe is within us, it's around us, it's within us, we're part of it, and it's there to help us with the things that we desire. Obviously, there's going to be challenges. Obviously, there's going to be lessons and experiences. We've come here, we've incarnated as a human. That's part and parcel of it. We're at what I like to call Earth School. but the universe is there to help us and guide us along the way. So if you're feeling a certain way, don't forget to ask. You're not alone. And what inspired me to do this video today was I actually pulled a card and I asked the universe, what do the collective need to hear today? What message do I need to pass on? And this is the card that I pulled, and it's beautiful because it's purple as well, which is your chakra above your head. Oh god, I forgot what it's called. But yeah, your chakra here above your head, your crown chakra, that's it, sorry, is purple. And the card actually says you're not alone. It says we are here for you, we never left through all the sadness and loneliness. However, you cannot sense us near, you or feel how much love we are sending you. We are your family, friends and guides. You never walk alone, we are right beside you. And this is something that I felt, you know, a lot when I first started out, and very much before that as well. A lot of loneliness, a lot of sadness, a lot of confusion over things. So I'm just going to read to you what it says in the book and we'll finish on that. So it says, this card comes at a time when you're probably missing someone, feeling lonely or lost, or not getting the emotional or spiritual help you truly need from those around you. Even though you may be feeling abandoned, don't forget that we are here for you, holding you, guiding you, and helping you through your grief and sadness. It is we who raise you up and gently push you forward. Please remember that we are spirit discarnate, not of body. You are spirit incarnate in the body, and as such, we are all spirit. You can connect to us at any time you wish. Find a quiet time where you can be yourself in your favourite space. Light a candle, hold us in your mind, and reach out with your heart and thoughts. When you feel a gentle, warm wave of love wash over you, a tingle up your spine, or even a special thought or image, these are all the signs that we are connected and we love you always. So I thought that was a really beautiful card, and obviously that is what prompted me to come on and share these things with you. So I hope that helped. As always, I'm really grateful to have you here, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Lots of love.